Late and Live, the topical talk show where you do the talking. Your host, Dave Barrett.
Thanks so much, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Late and Live. I'd like to introduce you to beautiful, talented co-hosts, but unfortunately we'll have to put up with these two. It's Fenella George and Katrina Buchanan. I love them, really. I love them, really.
Dave, remember, there are two of us.
And only one
of you.
I know.
Be frightened.
Yes, I won't forget that. Right, well, we've got lots of stuff coming up tonight on the show, of course. And, of course, we want to hear from you at home. You can fax us, you can phone us, and we'll give you details on that later. But meanwhile, Fenella will tell us what else is on.
Indeed, I will, Dave. Thank you very much. Well, tonight, we've not only got our brilliant Tony Cole, who's at this minute writing his topical song, we have a very special Bristol band, The Generators. They'll be here on their bit of applause would be nice. Thank you. They'll be here on their big black Harleys much later in the show. And in the hot seat, the last of the hot metal men, Derek Jameson. He's been Fleet Street editor of 4 national newspapers, but for the last 10 years, we've all known him as something of a showbiz personality. He'll give you the lowdown on life as a Fleet Street hack. Now, one of the HTV 100 might well become a bit of a star tonight when he gets up on that soapbox and fights his corner. Ian Horsley says he's got the answer to a number of problems on the roads. Brave man. If I say to you S&M, what does that conjure up? A large store? An insurance company, perhaps? Well, or a certain kind of club? Well, I can tell you, I mean sadism and masochism, yes indeed. And that's what we're talking about around midnight. We have some of our own S&M friends here in the studio with us, and they'll help us find out more about the mysteries of sadomasochism. But that's much later. Meanwhile, it's Katrina at the phones.
Yes, and as ever, we want to hear from you, and the girls are waiting for your call. What we haven't told them yet, though, is that they're doubling as groupies for the band later, but I'm sure they'll be obliging, they won't mind. Now, if you've got any comments or questions about tonight's show, you can phone us on 0272 722 555, or if you'd like to fax us, you can call us on 0272 722 522. Dave.
Thanks, Katrina. Well, earlier this week, Ofsted, the new privatised organisation of school inspectors, published a report which left school heads and teachers angry and frustrated. The findings revealed that children are failing to master basic number and literacy skills. So what's going wrong with our schools? Can we blame the funding or lack of it? Is it the national curriculum at fault, or is it the teachers themselves? Well, with us to discuss these and many more issues are Tom Wiley from Ofsted headquarters. He'll tell us why the report says that 1 in 4 schools must try harder, and to defend the teachers, Pamela Morris, who is the chair of Somerset Association of Secondary School Heads. She says you can't run schools on a shoestring. Welcome to you both. What is wrong with our schools?
Well, I'd like to put the education figures in context. The story essentially this year is of achievement in our schools, better results, higher staying on rates, good quality teaching. There are some negative features, and it's those which you have picked out in your introduction, but it's by no means the whole picture. But
1 in 4 pupils not getting what many would describe as a good education, that doesn't sound to me like a standard of good quality teaching. 1 in 4 is pretty high.
I don't think that's in fact the figure. The question is more what kinds of lessons go wrong. Some lessons go wrong. Some children do not get a good educational experience, which will help them, but that is not true for the generality of our young people.
Pamela, teachers are obviously very unhappy about this report. What do you feel about it?
I think we're accustomed to reports appearing and the negative elements being picked up by the media, to be quite frank. And we know what goes on in our schools. We know the quality of what goes on in our schools. We know that it's not perfect. We've also got a pretty good idea, quite a lot of the time, about how we can put it right.
What about this idea that it's been suggested that some schools are actually hoarding money? They're hoarding resources and keeping that back, and at the same time saying they haven't got enough money to actually pay for books and for other essential items. What do you say to that?
I would doubt very much if the same school is doing both things. But certainly there has been quite a lot of criticism recently of schools which have positive balances. But we were given our budgets 5 years ago to manage. we were told that good management meant being able, when we wanted to save for particular purposes. No business runs itself right down to the ground at the end of the year. No business has negative balances at the end of the year. All that we are doing is managing our budgets as any good business manager would do.
But are you at the same time holding on to large amounts of money in your bank account but sacking teachers?
No.
Would you say that's true for all schools? Because, I mean, you know, it's been suggested that some schools are doing that.
I can't speak for all schools. I've got no evidence that that is happening in any school of which I know. I know that some schools are going to have to start sacking teachers next year because of the education cuts, and some of those may have some funds, and the decision is theirs as to how they're going to use those funds.
Right. Tom, are schools hoarding money? Is that something you're unhappy about?
Some schools are retaining a higher level of resource than perhaps they strictly need. But as Pamela has just said, I think a number of them are doing them for very clear purposes. They have projects they want to fund. They are anticipating change. They have endured a fair amount of change in the curriculum and its assessment over the last few years. It's not surprising that they keep some money back for a rainy day.
Right, just before
let's face it, the rainy day has come, and some of us are going to have to use those funds to pay our teachers next year.
Just before we go to the 100 on this, I mean, you said in your report, I believe, that schools are getting enough funding.
No, we didn't put it quite like that. We said a number of schools were showing shortages of books. Accommodation was poor in some areas also. So it is not a universal picture. The story is of great unevenness in the level of resource made available to the school system.
All right. Are schools funded enough?
Oh, I would have to agree with Tom. That depends very, very much where they are. I mean, for example, in Somerset, until recently, we have been, I must say, reasonably well funded. Unfortunately, it looks as if that's over. Other authorities have been suffering cuts over the last 5 years.
Right, let's go to the 100. Standard of teaching in schools. I want to look at that, really, and what you feel about the sort of, particularly people in the 100 who've got children at school at the moment. Standard of education, the standard of teaching. Gentlemen up there first, sir.
Right, well, I'm very unhappy with the standard of education that one of my daughters is receiving. When I've contacted the school in order to try and make an appointment to see the teacher, I've been told I haven't been told I can't come, I just haven't had a communication, and I've subsequently written to the head teacher and asked for an appointment, and this still hasn't come forward.
So you're not happy with the kind of service
I'm definitely unhappy with the situation.
OK, lady here, yeah.
I'm the Vice Chairman of the School Board of Governors, and all the staff that are at the school where I'm at are all dedicated teachers. And what I've found is that the head teacher has in fact no longer able to head teach because she has to balance herself between being a manager, an administrator, finding the funds to bring in teaching staff and maintain buildings and balance contractors and all of these things, that she can no longer do the role that she went in to do.
Right, let me bring in Harvey Black, who's on the front row here. Harvey, you're a headmaster of a school. Yes. Are you really having to do a lot of administration work now? Are you more a manager than a teacher? Does that worry you?
Yes, more a manager, but a manager of people.
Right.
I have to say, what you're trying to do is to run your institution through your staff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not different from it was in the past. When you're trying, if you like, to focus on improving pupil learning, you need to do that through your staff.
What do you feel about the sort of job you're being asked to do now as a head teacher? Has it changed dramatically?
Oh yes, it has changed. It is more demanding.
For the better or for the worse?
In the end, for the better for the children.
Right.
Not least because we've now got greater ownership of the way we can distribute our funds. For example,
okay.
when you see a need, you don't have to go off and seek somebody's permission. You can actually do something with it.
So there's an advantage in that?
Oh, most certainly.
All right, let's get some more comments on the 100 about education. John, in the front row, sir.
I think we're on the wrong track. I think we're on the wrong track in the sense that we're talking about funding and money in schools. My experience, that isn't the thing. I find many of the teachers are somehow dissatisfied and grumbling, and I believe this is rubbing off on the pupils. Of all the people I interview, which are a big cross-section between 17 and 22, day in after day out, I would think less than 2% are saying they want to become teachers. And I believe at the moment the teachers have bought this largely on themselves. It isn't the funding of the schools. This is taking it. I ask people, 17-year-olds, to write a letter that an employer is likely to read and consequently give a job. I would think half the people that I interview I have to reject as their friend and say, this is going to work. Now, they are not learning these fundamentals in schools.
Let me put that back to Pam then. Where's it going wrong? Why is it that 1 in 40 pupils maybe aren't coming out of school with an education that we'd like?
I would think that a good proportion of the teachers who were teaching those children would be doing exactly the same thing that you were doing, would be putting it back and saying, this needs correction, this isn't good enough, this is only a rough draft. On the point of what you might call teacher morale, I think you're right. I think a lot of teachers at the moment are disgruntled and then their morale is low. And it's because an awful lot has been dumped on people over a relatively short period of time. We have had to make a great deal of changes. I think we've actually managed pretty well.
But you're losing staff at an alarming rate of knots, which you can ill afford.
Do you mean
Not
into
you
other
personally,
jobs
but
or retiring or what?
People who are giving up teaching because it
Yes.
is too much for them.
Yes,
Now, that's
absolutely.
nothing to do with money.
I think that actually underlines
Is it a
what I'm
sign
saying.
of their inability to teach?
I agree with you that it's not all about money, but I think it's all about value. And what's
Right,
happened to us recently is that we have begun to feel devalued or
Right,
undervalued.
let's stop there for a second, because I want to get some more comments. Gentleman behind, I'll come to you in just a second.
I think I agree with John, but also I think one thing we've got to remember is that I have friends who are teachers, and they've trained at university for 6 to 7 years, and they're on less than £13,000 a year, which I think is very, very
They can
poor.
earn up to 32,000 euros as a
They
teacher, up to
can, but
52 as a headmaster. That's not bad money.
No, that's good if they get to that grade, Dave, but there are a lot of young teachers out there now with a lot of burdening, a lot of pressure, and they're earning very, very low wages.
Okay, lady on the front row, you wanted to say something.
Well, I'm a teacher and I'm a parent, and I'm really, really worried about the way things are going, and I think you're wrong to sort of pose it that it's got nothing to do with resources and it's got nothing to do with money, because as a teacher, the thing that really, really worried me was the fact that you end up being in a classroom with, say, 30 kids, at least 30 children that you're teaching. And because you have very little backup, you have very little resources, you end up being in a situation where you're controlling the children much more than you're teaching them. So listening to children reading, you've got a chance of doing that maybe once a week and what have you.
Right.
And that's the direction in which things are going. So when you talk about teacher morale being down, you can really understand why that is, because the situation in which teachers have to work is diabolical at the moment.
Hold on, let's take for a look. Lady over there, yeah. Hi, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I've got a little boy in school, and there's 36 in his class. And can you tell me that one teacher can teach all of those children and give them the same amount of standard?
Well,
they should employ more teachers.
Let's put that back to Tom. Tom, our class size is too big. Is that a problem? Is that something you found in your report?
Class sizes is a factor, but it is not the sole factor. There are ways of handling certain sizes of class, certain kinds of children, where the size is very important. In other situations, the size is not the crucial factor. What I want to emphasise is that we have got high expectations of our education service. We need better educated, better trained, better skilled pupils, because we have a growing, more sophisticated economy. So it's quite right that people should look for higher standards and higher outcomes from our education process. And I think teachers are moving in that direction, but maybe in some places, for some children, not fast enough.
OK, can I ask how many people in the audience here feel that parents need to take more responsibility to kind of help in their children's education? Is there anybody here who doesn't think that thinks that actually it should be left more to the teachers and that, no? Well, let's encourage this. Lady at the back, you had your hand up there on that. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, I think parents should realise that they have got quite a large responsibility in the education of their children. I mean, teachers only work from 9 till 4 or 9 till 6, whatever. And I think, whatever hours they work, but when the kids go home, I think the parents have a lot more effect on them than the teachers do during that hour.
OK, gentlemen on the back row, sir.
I mean, I really disagree with that, because I think, if you go to school, you should be taught what you need to be taught so you can go on and prosper in later life. I think there's big problems in the education system, especially when, have the fact that you finish at 3:30 every day, and, some people can't pick up their kids at that time. The school education system is basically, it doesn't,
You don't think as a parent at home that you should be educating your children as well and helping with their work, reading stuff to them and
Well, yeah, but you shouldn't have to rely on parents.
Right,
the teachers are paid to do that.
What I meant was that the things you learn at school are different to things that your parents should teach you. Parents should teach you things like social skills and how to get on with people, whereas teachers in education learning how to read and write and, the things for qualifications.
OK, are there people here who are dissatisfied with the standard of teaching? Is there anybody who thinks that the standard of teaching is not good enough in our schools? Right, I'll come over to this side of the centre. Let's just get this lady here first.
Yes, I do. My daughter's just recently gone up to senior school, and we spent the whole summer holidays teaching her to read and write because the system failed for her, and I'm really
so
annoyed
you're
about
unhappy
it.
about that? Yeah, over here there's some people with a hand up. Lady there first, yeah.
Yeah, my problem is that however much interest I showed when my son was at the primary level, I was assured that he was no worse than a lot of his peers. Having moved to comprehensive 15 months ago, the amount of critical letters I received day after day from the school pointing out my son's obvious educational failings did nothing to encourage me. Eventually, on the 21st of September last year, I picked up my son from school, and he had actually suffered a complete nervous breakdown as a result of the failure of the school to recognise his particular needs. He's now been diagnosed or recognised as being profoundly dyslexic and was
That's bad. The school didn't
manifesting
pick that up, isn't it,
nothing
really?
else than the
All right,
symptoms
I'll come back
of
to some more people over this
dyslexia.
side in just a second, I promise. But first of all, Katrina's got some cards from home. Let's see what you're saying at home.
Yes, we've had a lot of calls about the subject of education. First of all, a comment from Jackie from Hartcliffe. Now, she says that disabled children are really suffering and that they get more cuts than ordinary children. Mrs. Taylor from Yeovil, she says that teachers do a brilliant job under the circumstances. They cope with a lot of stress and pressure. They should be thanked, not criticised, and the government should give a lot more funding. Then we had a call from Alan Payne from Cardiff, and he says that teachers haven't got the respect they deserve, and this is a rather contentious solution. They should allow corporal punishment. Jackie Bennett from Hengrove, she works in a secondary school, and she says if a pupil is willing to learn, they'll get all the attention they need. But if they're not interested, he gets ignored. Then we've got Anthony Salvage from Holford. He says the local council where he lives is saying that a local school is about to lose a teacher. The same council has just wasted 50,000 plus on trying to stop hunting, and he says that that can't be right and money is going to waste. And finally, we have a question. It's from Yvonne Terry in Clevedon, and her question is, today a school in Derbyshire said that they were going to a 3-day week because of lack of funding. Is this likely to happen in this area, or is it a one-off?
Let's put that back, actually, because it's a good... I mean, we see newspaper stories almost every day. The schools are closing down, or they haven't got the resources to repair their schools or to get books. Did your report not say that there is a problem with funding? Because the stuff I read about it said that actually you were saying no, funding isn't a problem.
No, we say
overall.
We say overall levels of resource are satisfactory. But
how can that be when we're seeing stories like that all the time?
That applies to the year in which the inspections took place. That doesn't necessarily project into the future, and I don't believe everything I read in the papers.
When did they take place?
Well, until last summer. So
Right.
it's a report on the previous academic year.
I mean, I don't want to get stuck on this funding thing, but is this a crucial point? Are you not getting enough money to do the job?
I think this, actually, now, at the moment, is a very, very crucial point. I was at a meeting on Wednesday which involved head teachers, primary and secondary, from all over the southwest, and it was horror story time. I mean, quite simply. It's not crying wolf. It's real, it's actual, and it's happening now.
Now, in Somerset, £9 million has been cut from the budget.
From schools' budgets, absolutely.
Right. That's a lot of money. How do we feel about it? Some people up here who had their hands up just before we went to the lady there, and I'll go to the gentleman at the back after. Yeah.
What worries me is the fact that the children with special needs, that there isn't enough funding for them. Is it not a government recommendation that they're supposed to be put into the mainstream? And are they passing by the wayside?
Right.
There's just not enough funding.
Fair point. Gentleman at the back, sir. Gentleman on the end, yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to refer to a colleague's comment made earlier about the education system failing children and not being able to read and write. My friends, and I'm 40, we could all read and write by the time I went to school. Surely it's their parents' responsibility to make sure their parents can read. I work with people now who have young children, names not mentioned. Obviously, they say the education system's failing, but they go to school, they're 5, they can't read, they can't write. They can manage a few 3-letter words, that's about as far as it goes. Now, to me, the education system isn't failed, it's the parents' responsibility to ensure they can.
OK, lady in front there, yeah.
Don't you think that a lot of the new modern schools and teaching methods are to blame? Because the new schools being built now aren't being built with traditional classrooms, they're being built with workstations where all the children go round one big room, stopping at the maths station, then they stop at the science station. I don't think that is a proper way to teach
OK,
them.
let me put this back to Pamela. I mean, if we're getting poor standards of education, I know you may say money is...
Big if.
Well, some people would say we are, and the report didn't seem to suggest that it's as good as it could be. You can't blame all that on finances. Are we looking at poor quality teachers?
Some of the time you probably are looking at poor quality teachers.
Whenever teachers are kind of challenged on this, there always seems to be a huge uproar and they don't like being criticised.
Well, does anybody?
No, but is this a problem? I mean, are you not recognising that there are perhaps more teachers who are being employed who aren't up to standard, who aren't doing the job?
There certainly are some teachers who are not up to standard and who aren't doing the job. And it's the...
And are they getting sacked?
Sometimes, and sometimes other things are happening. I mean, one of the things we learn is that a certain proportion of lessons are judged as unsatisfactory. You've got to look at the reasons why. You've got to say, you know, what is it? Is it a teacher whose morale has gone? Is it a teacher who needs in-service training? Is it a teacher who is now being asked to teach something that he or she hasn't taught before?
By who, though? Because surely the headmasters are making the decisions on that.
Even head teachers or women sometimes.
Sorry,
yes.
the headmistresses as well, I beg your pardon, yeah. OK, fine.
No, not necessarily, because the national curriculum is actually doing that, particularly in primary schools. The national
Right.
curriculum is doing that. In secondary schools, it's not so true.
OK, more comments. Gentleman on the front row, sir.
If funding is so good, why does it Parent-Teacher Association have to raise funds to actually get essential items like, you know, even paper, pencils, this sort of thing for the schools?
Well, that's a very fair point. Let me put that back to Tom. Tom?
You discussed last week the health service. Like the health service, education has rising demands about what level of resource it needs to do the job. What was acceptable some years ago, that is, you only needed a box of chalks, is now replaced with a computer. It does cost rather more to have the computer than the box of chalk.
Paper and
so
pencils.
our expectation...
Paper and pencils and pens are basic implements
Yes,
of
I accept
writing,
that.
aren't they?
I
They're the
accept that.
first step in learning to read and write. If you haven't got those, you can't even start from stage one.
I would be surprised.
Never mind computers.
I would be surprised if there are many schools which are requiring parents to purchase paper and pens.
Well, I think you ought to ask around a bit. You'll find there are.
All right, fine. We'll get some more comments from the 100 in a second. Are you fuming at home over this? Katrina, let's do a vote.
Yes, it's vote time again. We want to hear from you. The question that we're asking this evening, are the standards of teaching high enough? So that standards for teaching in this country, are they high enough? Now, if you think yes they are, if you have no complaints about the standard of education, then you call us on 0891 400 601. 0891 400 601. If however you think no, teaching standards, education standards are not good enough, then you call 0891 400 602. That's 0891 400 602. As ever, you can watch how the vote is going, and if you'll excuse me for this, just watch my balloons as they go up on the screen. And you've got 2 minutes to phone in with your opinion, starting from now.
All right, Katrina, thanks. I just want to come back here to Harvey, our headmaster here. You were saying earlier that headmasters and headmistresses, indeed head teachers, have got more control over their resources now.
Well,
so,
they and their governors.
Right.
The governors are
So
involved
if isn't some of this about prioritising that money into certain areas?
Yes.
So if there isn't money for books, is that because you spend it on something else?
Yes, and sometimes they have to make very difficult decisions about whether it's into repair and maintenance,
Right.
or whether it's reduce a teacher in order to enable you to buy the computers or
Sure.
whatever it would be. And they are difficult decisions.
Right.
And in a sense, they must be driven by what's right for the pupil's learning.
OK, fair enough. Lady behind, yeah.
It's a long chain of events, Dave. It's the government not giving cash to the schools, and then the schools having to sit down and decide which bit of paper they're going to look at first to let the teachers look at. And if that plan doesn't work, the government giving another bit of paper, so they have to work to that. And that's all the teachers have to do, is to sit down and look at bits of paper, not teach the children.
Are you being bogged down with kind of paperwork and unnecessary paperwork that costs you money?
There was some time when the national curriculum was really being foisted on school, when there was a lot of evidence of that.
Sure.
But I have to say, since Ron Deering has introduced the consultation over the national curriculum and all the slimming down of it, there's been a major improvement, which has been good for teacher morale.
Thank you. Gentleman at the back, sir.
I've been involved in education for 16 years now, and in that time I've seen education go from what I regarded as service to a commercial enterprise, which is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. Especially in FE, we've seen imposed contracts which have totally demotivated the staff, with the result the older ones are getting out, simply so that the bosses can replace them with cheap youngsters. It's just a bad situation at the moment.
All right, gentleman in front, sir. Yeah.
With the case with further education as well, there's 2 quick points about, firstly, the government are giving them incentives to take people off the dole queues, so therefore these people can get more education, but they don't want it, but they get more money, but therefore you've got the mature students who want the education but getting the grants cut, so they're cutting their own throat.
Right, lady here, yeah.
My daughter is 4, and she knows all her colours, she can count up to 20. She knows her name, how to spell it, which is unusual because her name's Shamara. But that ain't my question. She starts school, supposed to start school in September.
Right.
But I got to wait and find out if she's got a space to go to school, which I think is wrong.
Because there isn't room in the school? All right. I mean, that's a good point to ask about the future from both Tom and Pamela. Tom first, maybe. Is it going to get better? Do you perceive that actually it's going to get better as we go forward?
There are some important changes happening which I think are improving the standards in the schools. They include the national curriculum, they include attention to teacher training, they include improvements to the staff development of pupils, of teachers in order to help pupils. So there are many positive signs. Equally, I do think there are some things that we ought to be concerned about, and we have identified those in our report.
OK. Pamela, final word from you on this.
I'm an optimist by nature, but at the moment I don't feel particularly optimistic. I think we need to try and achieve some kind of national consensus about what education is about, what it ought to be, and then we can all start working together and take education out of the political domain and stop it being so much of a political football.
OK. Well, thanks to both our guests on the sofa on this one. We know what everybody here thinks. Let's find out what you at home are thinking. Now, Katrina has the results of our vote.
Yes, the result is in, and if you've been watching the balloons, then you will see there has been an overwhelming response that says no, teaching standards are not high enough. And now to someone who's had a marvellous education, so good in fact she can do joined-up writing and read without moving her mouth. I'm so impressed. To tell us what's coming up later, Fenella.
I'll see her at playtime, I tell you that. Right, later in the programme, we'll be meeting that great personality whose headmaster once said of him, he should do well in a shop. Derek Jameson did rather well in Fleet Street, actually, and he'll be talking about the press when he's in the hot seat. But just after the break, you should be with us to hear from our soapboxer, Ian Horsley. He's got it in for the under-25s. Steady on. That's after the break.
Life's full of ups and downs, isn't it? I've had more ups today than usual. Even the downs were up and up and up. I could have sworn the air became thinner the higher I climbed. I should have been a mountaineer, not a doctor. Still, it wasn't all down. Up. He got the last 2 tickets. In the gods.
Legworks by Pretty Polly, with Lycra where you need it, to keep you on your toes.
An easy-to-follow advertisement for your easy-to-use Delta card. Some people are confused about the difference between a cheque and a Delta card. No need. Like a cheque, Delta comes out of your current account and you get a receipt for your records. It's just far, far faster to use. So, Delta has all of the good bits of a cheque, but none of the bad bits. Visa's Delta to cheques.
Bienvenue to the Club Hot, deep in the throbbing heart of Paris. A slick, chic haven where the dapper denizens of the city by the Seine come to unwind. For here we find the globally renowned antidote to all roughness. Heineken Export, the strong silken lager that's smoother than a cashmere codpiece. Heineken Export, as recommended by your smooth-talking bar steward.
Uh-oh. Beastly blackcurrant. Ghastly grass. No, silly. That's too much for some detergents. You need new Vanish In Wash Stain Remover. Add 1 scoop of new Vanish to your usual detergent to put Vanish power in your wash. See how Vanish goes deep into the fibres, removing stains that some detergents alone leave behind. Spotless. Well done. New Vanish In Wash. Put Vanish power in your wash.
Hey, listen up. Radiant. Great on collars, brilliant on cuffs. And if you check out the price, it's superb on pockets. But I haven't got any pockets.
£791. The Australian Tourist Commission and Qantas give you Australia. Get the free Traveller's Guide. Call 0345 02 2000. Let yourself go.
Welcome back. Now, if I look a little bit upset, I've been told I've got to change my earrings because they're noisy, so I'm really sorry. It's not a continuity problem, OK? Now, I'm talking to you under-25s at home and to all us under-25s here in the studio. I've had a hard life. Shut up, all right? Because I hope you're ready for Ian Horsley, who's on our soapbox tonight. Now, he's in fine fettle, and we saw you adjusting your clothing earlier. It was very exciting. And he's got... Not yet, Ian. Don't talk back. Thank you. I'm getting stern. I think it's the subjects coming up later. Now, he's got a very... Everyone's got the wrong idea about me. Now, he's got a very provocative idea to put to you. You've got 1 minute, Ian, and the best of luck.
I think society and a lot of people would benefit if the age for driving cars was raised from 17 to 25. One of the reasons why I believe that is that, as you can see from this graph, a lot of accidents are caused, most of the accidents are caused by people under 25. Now, if they weren't driving cars, there'd be an awful lot less people injured. There'd also be a lot less congestion on the roads, which can't be a bad thing, and they would be encouraged to use their bikes, walk, or public transport. If they use more public transport, the cost of public transport would go down, and we'd need fewer subsidies. Those of you who live in Cottam or Redland or Clifton know how just difficult it is to park your cars because of all these youngsters who've got cars. The universities spend a vast fortune on providing car parking for students. This prime land could be used to produce income for the universities. Now, I think we are breeding a generation who are car dependent. They are autoholic, and I think that's not a good thing for them or for society. I would like to see more people using bikes and things.
Right.
Sorry.
Just before we go ahead, can I just ask you, do you wear a bobble hat and drive a Ford Anglia?
No.
Because they're always the ones, aren't they? They're the old geezers with the bobble hats.
I drive a Vauxhall Summit that my kids won't be seen dead in.
Probably just as well. Let's get some views. Lady here.
Can you tell me what the difference is between the under-25s driving and the ones that are over 70?
Yeah. Well, the over 70s may have less reactions, and over 70s do get tested, and if they don't pass the medical test, they have to have a test.
When do they get them then?
From 70 onwards, as far as I remember.
All right, gentleman on the front row. So.
OK, what's going to happen is that you're going to alter the ratio, you see. At the moment, you've got a lot of 17 to 25-year-olds who are having accidents because there's an awful lot of them. You stop them driving until they're 25, there's going to be a lot of 25 to 35-year-olds having accidents. No, hang on a minute. No, there is. Right, because they haven't got the experience. The only way you can do it is to cut down and restrict their driving during the first 2 years they're driving. Whether they start at 25 or 35 or 105, it doesn't make any difference. What you're saying is a load of rubbish, basically.
Right. Well, no, can I tell you the truth here?
Hang on, no, I want to get some stuff from this lot first. Hang on. There's a lot of people nodding their heads in utter amazement. Gentleman there, sir.
Yeah, what you're saying is a load of rubbish. I mean, you try coping, right, with two small children on public transport. I mean, that is ridiculous. When you wake up and you realise you're in the real world, then you'll realise what a problem it is.
Gentleman on the back.
I think what this guy's really talking about is extending the age of childhood. You know, the next thing you'll be coming out with is you can't vote until you're 25. I think this is a really dangerous sentiment that exists. Of course, young people cause more accidents because that's the beauty of youth. It means taking risks, you know. That's the reality of youth. Yeah? Now, it might be, you know, a long time ago since you had any experiences like that. I don't know, but what is more dangerous at the moment is this whole sort of criminalisation of young people. When I drive, you know, I've been driving for a year, and 5 times I've been stopped on a Friday night by police cars, pulled over just because I'm young and in a car. And it's this like impression that people hold these days that young people are joyriders, drug pushers, you know, gang members, and that is the criminalisation of youth, and this is a real problem.
Good point. Gentleman in the green, sir.
If it's a question of safety, wouldn't it be a better idea if we eliminated women from driving?
Oh!
You are taking your life into your hands there. Can I just put one point here? You're talking about under-25s causing accidents. What about all the over-40 businessmen who drink and drive at lunchtime and cause accidents there? Not much better.
Avon Road Safety, give me some statistics.
He's got a graph, everybody.
Not just a graph. 17 to 19-year-olds make up 10% of the licence holders. They make up 20% of the accidents.
Right, that's why they pay more insurance, though, isn't it, to be fair? Let's go to some people who haven't spoken yet. Gentleman there, sir, yeah.
Ian, how old were you when you learnt to drive?
I was 17.
Lady over here, yeah. Hi.
I'd just like to say, I'm 22. I've been driving since 6 months after my 17th birthday. I passed my test. I drive 200 miles to Colchester University and back 12 times a year. I have never had an accident.
And
never.
she's a woman as well. There we are. Lady behind, yeah.
How safe is it for young women to ride bikes and use public transport late at night?
Well, if more people use public transport, it will be a lot safer. How safe is it for young women to have to spend the costs that they have to spend on running a car? I would like to see, I think young people, car owners are pilloried by the cost of car ownership. We have a whole generation who need to be weaned off dependency on cars.
Right, doesn't he have a fair point here? I mean, most of the accidents are caused by under 25s. Well, they are. More are. Hang on, I'll come to you in a second. Gentle effort.
Right. I'm going to agree with you slightly in saying that if that was the case, people weren't allowed to drive cars and or have licences from before 25 years and upwards, that would really solve a lot of problems on our roads because they're over-congested anyway. So I will agree with you to a certain point.
All right, I'll give you the final word. 20 seconds.
20 seconds. We all go through rites of passage. We learn to ride a bike, we learn to drive. If it was 25, a lot of the youngsters who are 14 and 15 trying to drive cars now wouldn't feel the same way because you wouldn't feel that to 21.
Give him a round of applause. He did a good job there. Well done.
Well, what an interesting suggestion that was. Tony, do you think under 25 should be kept off the roads?
Well, as long as I don't start driving on the pavement instead.
Aha! Excellent point, I do believe. Now, you've written one of your brilliant ditties on the same subject. Are you ready to go?
I certainly am.
Take it away, Mr. Tony Cole.
Oh, me name is Darren Shorthouse. I'm a streetwise sort of dude. I'm the sort who gets through 18 pints and runs round in the nude. I've got an Escort GTI. I am in love with it. Though my girlfriend is dyslexic and she thinks it's called a git. I love collecting mascots. I have spent a sidey sum on furry dice and a little gnome who sometimes shows his bum. There's Garfield and there's Stick-on Bears from Paddington to Yogi. The steering wheel's Morocco bound. The horn plays Colonel Bogey. The car is my companion, how I love to hear it throb. It's my favourite sound in all the world, apart from my own gob. Your car is like your manhood, some psychiatrist once said. That's why mine is christened Willie, and I've painted it bright red. I love to race the other boys, just like the film Top Gun, 'cause Bristol on a Friday night is such a lot of fun. From Arcliffe up to Southmead, I got wagon loads of cred, and in Knoll West I've been called a culch leaf, that's what I think they said. Well, I tried to get insurance, but the broker, he was not nice. He says it's like insuring the Titanic against ice, so I'll just have to do without. It makes no odds to me. Why should I care? I haven't got a tax or MOT. I keep away from trouble, and I always watch my speed. Whenever I see a cop car, I leave very fast indeed. Of all the teeny drivers, I'm regarded as the best. I can't wait until I'm old enough so I can take my test.
He's just gone off to get into his Capri and rip up the road on the way home. Now, we've got more music later in the programme with hot and happening Bristol band, The Generators, who've been getting this lot going earlier. And later, we'll be talking about role play, bondage, caning, whips, chains, nipple clamps. Anyway, what? Things I've only heard about for the first time today. So, around midnight, we're talking sadomasochism. Don't miss it. But first, and far, far from sadomasochism, we'll be meeting a man from the world of Fleet Street, broadcaster Derek Jameson. He's in the hot seat tonight, so be with us after the break.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Welcome back to Late and Live. Well, our hot seat guest to tell some of the toughest jobs going. He's run 4 of our national newspapers in the editor's chair, The Mirror, The Express, The Star, and finally the News of the World. He was fired from that last paper by Rupert Murdoch for not being up to the tabloid challenge. So he is, our guest, Derek Jameson, really a hard-nosed journalist, or is he the hot metal man with a soft centre? In fact, he's hot off the picket lines at Shoreham, where he's been protesting about the veal calf trade. Welcome. What do you think of the tabloid press today? Papers like the News of the World that you used to edit. What do you think of them now?
They've gone down the swanny, haven't they? The standards are appalling. Yeah. It's the competition, I suppose, and the removal of restrictions at the time of Wapping. You see, we were very rigidly controlled by the toughest unions in the world, the British print unions. Rupert Murdoch smashed them with the help of Eddie Shah, and now it's anything goes, you know.
I've heard you say that that truth was very important to you when you were an editor.
I think it should be to every journalist, don't you, Dave?
I'm sure a lot of people might believe that even the News of the World in those days wasn't always telling the truth. I mean,
I think, listen, I tell you something, mate, you've got to pursue the truth. You've got to try to stick to the truth, because otherwise it's comic cuts, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, there is so much going on in this evil world, you don't need to make it up. It's all there, isn't it?
Right. What about, I mean, papers like The Star have often been accused of being racist and sexist. What did you think about all those things when you were editing those papers?
I think you've got everything, you know, shades, you've got the whole spectrum. We always say in Fleet Street, you pays your money and you takes the choice. If you're being interviewed by Dave Barrett, tell him, read The Guardian, mate. Don't talk to me about The Sun or The Mirror. You see, we're not for you. We're for the 10 or 11 million people who buy our popular newspapers every day. We've got the most lively, vigorous, powerful press in the entire world. Why? Because the great British public go out in their millions, and every day they buy the paper and they devour it. And me, 40 years in Fleet Street, editor of just about all of them, I say, what do you think of my paper? And they say, what a load of rubbish. And I agree with them. They're quite right. But they still read them.
What about Rupert Murdoch? Because you worked for Rupert Murdoch at the News of the World, he sacked you, then he took you back on Sky. A lot of people have said he's got kind of, particularly with the Royals, that he's got some hidden agenda here to...
Well, I think he's a Republican, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. He's an Oz. He's an Aussie. They're different from us anyway. They're outrageous, they're irreverent. But he's a very clever man. He's the best media boss in the world. When he made me editor of the News of the World, I'll give you a for instance. I said to him, Rupert, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life exposing massage parlours. What do you mean? What do you mean? I said, well, massage parlours, the perfect British compromise. Children don't know what they are. Old ladies don't know what they are. We all know what goes on behind those windows. Perfect. He said, we can't have that. He said, when mother goes out shopping, in Australia, when mother goes out shopping with her 2 sprogs, and the kiddie says to her, Mummy, what's that behind the window? She doesn't want that sort of thing in the high street. And I thought, he's right, isn't he? I mean, it doesn't worry me, but it would worry a mother with young children if they wanted to know what the massage parlour was. So Rupert has got this kind of instinct for what's right, what's very tough man. Imagine you're an editor, Dave. You've worked 13, 14 hours. You are totally and utterly shattered. You get home 1 o'clock in the morning. 2:30, the phone rings in the middle of the night. Rupert Murdoch, the other end of the world. Someone, one of his toadies, has faxed him some pages from your paper. And he says to you, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 bloody times, don't put pop stories on the front page of the News of the World. And he gives you the most fearful going over in the middle of the night. And this is what you have to put up with.
So you're glad to get out of there at the end.
Yeah, I'll say.
Let's get some questions from the 100. Gentleman at the very back there, sir.
Yeah. Interesting what you said. You just said Rupert Murdoch's a person who knows what's right and wrong. Now, going back a few years, I seem to remember Rupert Murdoch was, what, was he being right when he sacked all the people at Wapping overnight? Thousands of people out of the job.
Sacked me as well.
Unions.
Do you think he was right to sack me?
Well, yeah. I'm not saying he's totally bad.
All right, sir.
Right. How do you feel that the last election there were 85% of all the newspapers, the daily newspapers in this country, were owned by 4 people? Of that, 75% were totally conservative. And you have Lord McAlpine interviewed in the Sunday Times the Sunday after the general election, when the Conservatives have got back in, saying if the Conservative government thinks it got back in on its platform or its manifesto, it's sadly mistaken. And then he named Max Hastings, Calvin Mackenzie, Sir Nicholas Lloyd, and all of the right-wing editors of the press, and said these guys are responsible for the election victory, not those asinine fools that are now back in government.
Interesting point.
Well, you're obviously shocked. I mean, this is
outraged. Is more like
the way
it's
the press is
the
run.
country.
Rupert will says, well, if that's the way you feel about it, why don't you go and start a newspaper yourself?
Lady in the front row.
The only paper I buy, well, is the Sun.
Quite so.
It's the Sun.
Right.
Because I like the star signs, and it's usually good.
Just
but I don't believe a word they say.
No, well, that's
it's all
it.
rubbish. It's all lies. And Bristol Evening Post is all right.
What we say, darling, is never let the truth interfere with a good story.
It's all lies.
Gentleman at the back, sir.
Derek, the only paper I buy is actually toilet paper. but one question I would like...
you can't read it in the loo. You need a newspaper.
You can. One question I would like to ask you, do you think the press have the will and, in fact, the capability to kind of monitor themselves with regard to privacy?
Well, they're behaving themselves a bit better because they know if they don't, the government will impose laws and restrictions on them. So they are trying to put their house in order. But what they've done to get sort of even, they've launched a great campaign against sleaze. Most of that is originated by the newspapers. And we don't care what the party is. That guy was talking about the Conservatives. Ask David Mellor what the newspapers that did him, what were they? Were they communists? Were they both? Were they Trotskyists? Or were they conservative newspapers? You see, they don't care.
Good point. Gentleman on the back. Gentleman on the back with the check.
So they are attacking the government. All these Tory politicians talking about Victorian morality. We must get back to the old standards. So Fleet Street, on the defensive, went out and had a go at them.
OK, sir.
Could we go back to the first question that was asked?
I was trying to avoid that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to get back to it. Was Murdoch right in breaking the unions?
I think the unions brought it on themselves.
Yeah, the unions...
They were runaway. They were so restrictive. I couldn't put one foot in front of the other without permission from unions. You know, it was too much. And I'm a lifelong union man. I've just been made a life member of my union, so I'm not anti-union, mate, but the print unions were a bit too much.
OK, gentleman at the back, sir. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think today that the papers print first and then do the research afterwards when they realise they've got it wrong?
Well, some are good, some are bad. The best are the best in the world, like television. The best are the best in the world, the worst are appalling, aren't they? And generally speaking,
now, though, aren't they?
Generally speaking, standards have gone, as I say, standards have fallen, but they're still doing good things, you know.
Are they?
Look at this paratrooper who's doing life for murder in Belfast. There's now a great campaign to get some kind of a retrial, or at least he should be pardoned, whatever. That's newspapers have stirred all that up.
Derek, you've moved away from newspapers now to TV and now to radio. You do a late-night show on Radio 2. Although actually, there's a very good guy locally at that time, I just point out. But, how do you find working with the wife?
Well, I think it's outrageous. I'm a cockney. I don't think a man should have to take his wife to work. I mean, can you believe it? The BBC, they are so politically correct, it makes you want to spit. And they decided, oh, you should take the wife with you. So every night she trolls along beside me, and I thought she'll make the tea, answer the phone. Not likely. She wants even billing in the studio. She wants to do everything that I do. And it doesn't say much for broadcasters, mate, because if I were a plumber, or a mechanic or had a proper job, wouldn't be able to take the wife with me, would I? I mean,
Do you enjoy it, though, apart from that? Is it good fun?
Yeah, oh, yeah, sure. It's
All right, let's
lovely.
get some more questions. Gentleman on the end, sir. Yeah.
Didn't you get that the wrong way round with the billing and the wife?
Yeah.
Didn't they employ her and you just tag along?
Well, I wouldn't mind that, yeah. That's my dream. That's my lifelong dream, to be a house father.
Lady on the front row. Yeah, hi.
Derek, can I first of all say that you came from nothing and I take my hat off to you because you've worked hard in life to get where you are. But haven't you ever lost sleep over the little people who the national newspapers have put such awful stuff in the papers about and destroyed their lives? I mean...
I've never had any guilt or feeling of... I mean, I lose sleep over many things, but never any sense that I've betrayed my class, my origins, or my people. The only allegiance that I have, this is probably why I've been fired by every newspaper, my only allegiance is to the people. As Dave said, today I was at Shoreham joining the protest against this evil, barbaric, outrageous trade in cars. Sick and disgusted. So I don't personally, but you sometimes have the most terrible moral dilemmas. I was editor of the News of the World. I was growing up with a kid, and he worked in an insurance office, wanted to be an editor. We both wanted to be editors, and we used to go to night school, and we'd have a cup of tea afterwards and have fantasies about becoming editors. I became editor of all those newspapers. He became editor of the Mail on Sunday, News of the World, and he was editor before me. He was editor of the News of the World before me, and he had a story about a teacher who had a caravan in the woods, and on a Saturday afternoon and a Sunday, he entertained the most tatty, appalling prostitutes in the caravan. Very sordid, very nasty. And this guy I grew up with, editor of the News of the World, decided he would run the story, a teacher in the woods in a caravan with prostitutes. Due to come out on the Sunday morning, the story, Saturday afternoon, the guy committed suicide. Now, if that had happened to me, I would have been crippled. I don't know whether I could have carried on. I was so horrified that this poor man, he was an old bachelor, lonely, he'd committed suicide because of a bit of paper, a story in the News of the World. Rubbish. And I've argued to this day for years with that guy that he should not have published the story, and he has no second thoughts at all. Right. He says okay. The man was a teacher. He's teaching your children. Do you want your children to be taught by a man like that? What would you have done if you were the editor? Who would have published the story?
Not many, not many. All right, tell you what, we're going to find out what people are thinking at home now, because Fenella's got some questions.
Really?
Fenella,
sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, we've got a lot of comments, but even more questions, actually. We picked 3 from the crop here. First one is from Betty Letts of Portishead. John Juna said in his book that Derek Jameson would have made a better entertainer than a journalist. What does he think about that?
Well, Derek Jameson said John Juna is the greatest brain of the 14th century.
Nice, concise answer, that's what we like. Dave from Bristol, was it a good or a bad idea to get rid of the unions?
Well, no, it's never a good idea to get rid of unions. They protect the people. I'm totally against that. But these unions, in their restrictive practices, went too far and brought it on themselves.
Right, there you go, Dave. And finally, Mr. Pan from Bridgewater. Why have newspaper reporters the right to criticise others?
Well, we don't pass judgment. Not at all. No, not at all. We're not. I'm in big trouble at the BBC because I interviewed Ronnie Biggs. Talk shame, outrage. Ronnie Biggs, a robber, great train robber. My goodness, 32 years ago, he was one of a gang of 16 and he escaped to Brazil. I interviewed him, I had a laugh with him, I treated him courteously, and now I'm in all kinds of trouble. How dare you? How dare you spend BBC money on a phone call to Brazil to interview Ronnie Biggs? I don't give 2 monkeys, as far as I'm concerned. He's a story. I'm a newspaper man. I don't pass judgment.
So we're running out of time rapidly, but do you think you've mellowed over the years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mind you,
do we believe
mind you, I was always a good boy. When I was a kid, I grew up in this terrible orphanage. An old lady called Ma Wren, 70 children she raised without a penny. There was no welfare state. That's where I get my ideas from. And she always said to me when I was down, I had a cleft chin, and she used to touch it, And she'd say, "You'll be all right, you little bleeder. You're touched by the angels."
That was the title of your first book, of course. Right, very quickly, because we're running out of time, but a quick final question here, yeah.
I must be one of the minority because I don't purchase a newspaper at all because I'm sick of the guff and the rubbish and the lies that are printed in it. I do not.
How do you know if you don't read them, then? How do you know if you don't read them?
Well, that's a good point. Final quick word, yeah.
Yeah, I just had a comment, really, about the role of the media in criminal court cases. And I feel a lot of the tabloid press, what they do, they actually try the people who are on trial before they even get to court. And I think that newspapers are actually quite damaging. It scares off witnesses. It also causes a lot of undue pressure on the person being tried. And I really feel something for the tabloid press to think about, too. I know the media has a role to play in, you know, keeping everybody informed and exposing criminals and so forth. But at the same time, we have to be
There are
fair.
strict laws governing that, but they
But it
ignore
happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
I'm going to have to stop you there because we are, I'm afraid, completely out of time. But let's thank Derek Jameson. Thank you, Derek.
Oh, joy, oh, rapture, oh, delight. I've finally achieved 2 ambitions. First, I am sitting astride something very powerful. And secondly, I've got some willpower, because this is willpower. And he and his band, the Generators, are going to be playing for us later.
Indeed they are. But we've got a break now. Coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about sadomasochism. That's kind of beating and whips and leather, all the sort of stuff that Katrina's into. Nice moped, by the way.
Hardly surprising.
Oh, what a bad joke. Oh, see you after the break. Oh, dear me.
No, I don't.
When a crisp as irresistible as Walker's introduces a new cheese and onion flavour, there's no more Mr. Nice Guy.
We're out of honey. Come on, Teddy, let's nip down to the shops.
Oh, blimey, a traffic warden. Hey, Vernon!
Come on, Teddy, another ticket would be too grisly. Will you get in?
All right, Vern, you're worse than a bear with a sore head, you are. Oh, this is nice.
Yes, it's a new Renault 5 Campus.
Yeah, 5-speed gearbox.
Yes, but, reverse is my favourite.
Oh, lovely stereo. Whoa!
Nippy, this 1.4 engine, isn't it?
Do you need any bare necessities, mate?
The Renault 5 Campus. Only 5555 on the road.
When you're hungry, Snickers is big enough to... your hunger, because it's... with fresh roasted... it's one big, delicious eat. More satisfying than... or even... satisfaction in a big way. Snickers is the big eat that really satisfies.
Okay, everybody, it's time to start changing your lifestyle and getting healthy. Here we go.
Healthy? That's an idea.
Let's stretch it up. Woo! And down to the side.
Kellogg's Bran Flakes are an easy way to get into a healthier lifestyle.
Let's go for the burn.
They have more fibre than most other cereals, they're low in fat, but taste great.
Okay, people, you're looking good.
Well, I think I'll go for the burn tomorrow.
Kellogg's Bran Flakes, a step in the right direction.
Now in Iceland, grade A £3